George Parr, you are an investment banker.
Well, I don't think there's any call for insults or name-calling.
Sorry, I was just...
What is, after all, a very difficult situation.
Well, no, but let's face it, you are an investment banker, and I just wanted to get your view of the turmoil that is now engulfing the financial world.
Well, you know, I'm of a certain age. There are not many of us left, my generation. And I can look back at a time when the world seemed a simpler place, with some sense of certainty and order. I think of it as a golden age of banking.
You're thinking of the 60s, perhaps, or even the 50s?
No, I was thinking more of June last year. Why can't we go back to a time when people took the word of a banker as gospel, you know? Now when you get suspicion, finger-pointing, everybody asking all sorts of difficult questions.
What sort of questions?
Oh, well, yeah, you know, the sort of nitpicking, pointless things like, well, I don't know, you know, where's the money gone? As if I'm supposed to know.
But it's generally thought that it is people like you who are responsible for this crisis.
Yes, well, I think that's broadly true, yes. Yes, we've given far too much credit, we've been paid far too much, and we've been stupidly greedy.
And so, what are you going to do about it? I mean, where do you go from here?
I've given this a very great deal of thought. And what I've decided to do is to go on doing the same things as long as I possibly can.
Surely that's an extraordinarily irresponsible attitude.
Well, yeah, you might say so, but I've considered all the options, and what seems to be the way it works is that I go along to the government and say, I'm sorry, but I've done something exceptionally foolish, which will cause enormous damage to the economy. And they say, have you? Oh, well then, here's £15 billion.
So, like nearly everybody else, you lost a great deal of money on property and derivatives.
A colossal amount of money. But there is a silver lining to it all, if you look hard enough.
Is there?
Yes, luckily I lost other people's money and not my own. That's something of a consolation.
Yes, it must be. So, you're all right, personally?
Well, you know, over the last decade or so, it's been very up and down. Sometimes I've had good years, sometimes I've had incredibly good years. But with the best will in the world, it's impossible to spend the amounts I've earned, so I've still got quite a lot of it left. If other people had done what I did, they wouldn't be moaning about their food going up.
Yes, many people would say that it is those who can least afford it that will suffer most from your mistakes. Those with mortgages and credit card debt and the lower paid.
Well, I think it shows extraordinary lack of gratitude by these people for what we've done. I mean, if it hadn't been for us, the City of London would be just a pathetic backwater instead of the financial centre of the world. And think of the billions which flow into London every day, or used to. Think of the enormous amount of tax revenue that generates.
But people like you hardly pay any tax.
No, but think how much it would be if we did.
But haven't people in your world insisted on light regulation by the government and a generous tax regime? In 2002, Gordon Brown cut the capital gains tax on business assets held for 2 years from 40% to 10%. Yes. If you were a partner in a private equity firm making millions out of deals, these millions would be taxed at 10%. In effect, they would be paying income tax at 10%, while their office cleaners were paying 20%.
Yes, as often said, but it's very simplistic. A lot of private equity partners weren't paying anything like 10%.
No?
No. A lot of them were paying 5%. Some of them were paying nothing. In 2006, there were 52 billionaires in this country. 32 of them didn't pay any income tax at all.
Well, why did the government go along with this?
Because the private equity firms went to them and threatened to move their businesses abroad. And the government said, please don't do that, we want you to stay here. If an office cleaner went to the government and threatened to go and clean an office in the Cayman Islands, the government would say, well, piss off then.